Some news from South Africa. Again, the country standing in the lead, #1 against Israel. And on this channel, I've given you long videos, giving you examples, using America as a test case over the decades of every time there's been a blessing and a curse regarding relationship between Israel and America. And this thing consists constantly, permanently, for all time. And your relationship towards Israel works perfectly in this situation with either blessings or curses. And now, for once, we're standing totally against Israel. Not all of us. Some of us are believers who support Israel 100% as we should, and prays for them and wishes that they would see their Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach, but are strong and proud enough to stand up and say, I will stand with Israel in a time when the whole world has turned against her. Now, that is not the country. South Africa as a country, as a leadership cable, is against Israel. And I see daily in the news, from weather events to economic collapses to chaos in politics, how this country is suffering curse from what we are doing to Israel on the international plane. So one of the things, there's two articles, and I want to delve into the second one a bit deeper than the first. The first one says, social unrest warning in South Africa over electricity price hikes. Minister of Energy and Electricity has warned that the municipal debt is an existential problem facing South Africa, and steep increases in the cost of electricity are a ticking time bomb that will trigger unrest. Right, so, sorry, it is true. It is chaotic how a electricity company that can't even supply, I mean, we are the test case for the world on switching the power off, load shedding, and making you live with it as part of the norm. We are that country. Failures all the time. And when that's not happening, when they, patting themselves on the back and saying, look, the power stayed on, then local support structures and things for the electricity and infrastructure are falling apart, and you still end up with power outs regularly, which we've had here where I live quite a few times in the last few weeks again. And that's just the situation. Now, on top of all of that, they keep rewarding themselves with more and more and more increases. And I'm not talking 2 and 5%. I'm talking over the next 3 years, they want to go up with almost 60 to 70% increases, where the vulnerable and the base level of South Africans can already not afford electricity because it's too expensive. And the way it's jumped now recently, I've seen an increase in the last month in electricity spend that is insanity. And I don't know how we're supposed to keep up with that to keep lights on. So you can't really run air conditioners when you're in a heat wave. You can't really do anything extra, and you've really got to strategize to use your power. On top of all of that, they want to keep increasing the price. So the government supports them, they'll keep doing that, and the more the basic person on the street is suffering, and it keeps going downwards. That's one example right there. The next one we want to delve into a bit deeper is South Africa facing a showdown with the United States. So when Trump kicks into office around the 20th, I think, forgive me if I'm wrong, but in that bracket, it's going to be interesting how he approaches South Africa, because his head is being screwed on straight in that regard, and looking at where South Africa stands in the current worldwide situation and alliances. So what Trump does and what decisions he makes is going to be really interesting. Now, this article says, key Republican Party representatives in the United States are pressuring incoming Trump administration to extricate South Africa from lucrative trade agreements. Right. So they want South Africa removed from trade agreements that benefit South Africa. Now, what are these trade agreements? It is AGOA. AGOA is a trade agreement that is made with multiple countries in Africa to be able to trade with America at no cost. South Africa's trade relations with the US will get strained even further as the renewal of the African Growth Opportunity Act, AGOA, hangs in the balance on the back of pressure of US Congress to alienate South Africa completely. This comes after renewed pressure from US Congressman for President Joe Biden to conduct a comprehensive review of the bilateral relationship between the US and SA and file and findings of the review within the next 6 months following the International Court of Justice ruling on the case against Israel. If this comprehensive review and unclassified determination finds that South Africa's action undermined the US national security or foreign policy interests, South Africa could be kicked out of the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA. So us actively and vehemently and proudly and loudly standing against Israel is in direct opposition to America's security interests and political interests on the worldwide scale. So we are standing against America, duh. And they need to find that and realize that and prove that, which they can very easily do, and then act on those findings immediately. AGOA provides eligible sub-Saharan African countries with duty-free access to the US market for more than 1,800 products, in addition to the more than 5,000 products that are eligible for duty-free access under the Generalized System of Preferences program. So it's a huge boon and a win for South Africa to be able to trade like that. The US has been mulling delaying an early renewal of AGOA for South Africa after disproved allegations that South Africa was selling weapons and ammunition to Russia in its war with Ukraine. There was that whole situation a while back where the Russian boat came in, docked at Simonstown, something was loaded on in the dead of night. People were chased when they tried to get too close to take photos or footage, and then they left again. So what were they loading? Tomatoes? I think weapons. Extra ammunition? Who knows? Moskowitz and James Bull comes after Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman last month slammed South Africa for bringing a case of genocide against Israel, saying that South Africa ought to sit this one out. Agreed. The South African government has a history of siding with malign actors, including Hamas, which is designated foreign terrorist organization and a proxy of the Iranian regime by the US government, adding that South Africa continued to pursue closer ties with the People's Republic of China and the Russian Federation. Not only that, but we have closer ties with the Iranian government, which is at the root of the Hamas and Hezbollah proxies, which we also support and have a lot of supporters for in South Africa, Cape Town, all over the country. Our banks have been in scandals when they've uncovered the money being moved around for those organizations. So our hands are really dirty and the facts are really hard on the ground. This is not hard to prove, to be able to kick South Africa out of AGOA. My heart will break for all those small businesses and things that are trying to survive, that are happy to have AGOA as a means to fund their businesses and get products in and out. But South Africa, if tested and checked, yes, we are pro-Russia, pro-China, pro-Iran, pro-Hamas, pro-Hezbollah, anti-Israel. Again, not all of us. Some of us are true believers, redeemed, following the word of God, and we are not with what our government is doing. We are praying for our country. We are praying for change. We're trusting the Lord has got us regardless of the outcome of what's happening with South Africa. So that's an update on the current tensions and stresses, and there's much more, but I won't go into it because this video will become way too long, of what's happening in South Africa. But suffice it to say, economically and survivability and food prices and everything, it is becoming really difficult and really scary to be living in South Africa at a time such as this. But again, are we afraid? No. God supplies our needs. God looks after us. I have no stress about people bursting in and killing us or doing anything, although these are realities as well on the ground in the areas we live. Why am I not stressed? Because God. I trust in the Lord, my God. I don't have stresses about things like that. God is in control of my journey. And that is how we should live, regardless of where we are, whether it be a war zone or a normal public space completely in safety. We trust in the Lord our God wholeheartedly, and that He always knows best. God bless. Keep looking up. Shalom.